All right, so we're diving into the neuroscience behind financial habits today. And honestly, I got to say, I'm a little skeptical. Like,
Yeah.
can understanding my brain really help me finally break these bad money habits? I mean, I've tried everything, budgeting apps, motivational podcasts, you name it. I've probably attempted it.
Yeah, I hear that it can be so frustrating when you know what you should do, but something keeps tripping you up.
Right,
And
exactly.
that's really where neuroscience comes in. It's not about blaming yourself, it's about understanding the machinery, under the hood.
Okay, I like that.
And the thing is, research actually shows that 95%,
Wow, 95%.
yeah, 95% of our financial decisions happen on autopilot. It's
Seriously?
like we're running on pre-programmed software.
So I'm like a robot.
Kind of. And a lot of the software was installed before we even turned 7.
Wait, 7. So like my childhood lemonade stand was shaping my financial future.
In a way, yes. Our early experiences with money create neural pathways. Think of them like well-worn trails in the brain
Okay.
that dictate how we react to financial situations.
So that's why I can't resist a good sale.
Possibly. But the good news is, thanks to neuroplasticity, our brains can actually adapt and change throughout our lives.
Okay. Neuroplasticity. That sounds pretty hopeful.
Yeah.
But how does this rewiring actually happen? Is it like flexing a muscle? The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
That's a great analogy. Just like working out a muscle, you can strengthen new neural pathways by consciously repeating desired behaviors.
So like practice makes perfect.
Exactly. So let's say you want to curb impulse spending. Every time you resist that urge to buy something you don't need, you're essentially forging a new intentional spending pathway in your brain.
Okay, so it's not just about having more willpower. It's about actually changing the physical structure of my brain.
Exactly. Willpower is actually a limited resource. Instead of relying solely on white-knuckling it, we can use strategies that play to how our brains naturally work.
Okay, I'm all for working smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
So tell me more about these strategies.
One of the most powerful tools is understanding what we call the habit loop.
Okay, the habit loop. Remind me how that works again.
Sure. So it's a 3-step process: cue, routine, and reward.
All right, cue, routine, reward.
The cue is the trigger that sets the habit in motion. It could be a feeling, a time of day, a specific location, you name it.
Okay, got it.
Then comes the routine, which is the habit itself.
Right.
And finally, the reward is what reinforces the habit and makes it stick.
So let's say my cue is, feeling stressed after work. The routine is scrolling online shops. And the reward is that temporary hit of excitement from adding things to my cart.
You got it.
Okay.
Now imagine trying to break that habit through sheer willpower alone.
Ugh, it sounds exhausting already.
It's like trying to stop a train by standing in front of it.
Okay, yeah, definitely not strong enough for that.
But if you understand the mechanics, you can derail the train entirely.
Okay, I'm liking this train analogy.
Yeah.
So how do we actually derail those bad habits?
Well, let's start with awareness. Once you pinpoint your personal cues, you can start to intentionally interrupt the routine. So instead of automatically reaching for your phone when stress hits, maybe you plan to go for a walk, call a friend, or meditate.
Okay.
We call these implementation intentions.
Implementation intention.
Like a pre-planned detour for your brain.
That's interesting. So it is not about eliminating the cue itself, but about changing how we react to it.
Precisely. And you can also modify your environment to make good habits easier and bad habits harder.
So like if my weakness is online shopping, unsubscribe from tempting email lists.
Exactly. Remove saved credit card info. Maybe even temporarily block those apps during vulnerable times.
So it's like setting up guardrails for my brain, making it harder to fall into those old patterns.
Exactly. You're playing to the strengths of what we call the autopilot brain.
Okay, the autopilot brain.
You're essentially rewiring those neural pathways by consistently making different choices.
This is starting to make a lot more sense. But I've tried so many things in the past and failed. How do I know this time will be different?
Well, it's important to remember that traditional methods often miss the mark because they don't fully account for these underlying brain mechanisms.
That's not my fault.
No, not at all.
All right.
They focus on willpower alone, neglecting the power of habit formation and neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
By understanding and leveraging these concepts, you're essentially giving yourself the tools to create lasting change.
Okay, I'm feeling more hopeful already.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Okay, this is all starting to click for me. We talked about, derailing bad habits. But what about building those positive money habits? The ones that seem so elusive? Like, how do I rewire my brain to crave saving and investing and making those smart financial choices?
That's where it gets really exciting. We're not just hitting the brakes, we're building a whole new engine.
I like that.
And for that, we can actually borrow some insights from James Clear, author of Atomic Habits.
Oh yeah, Atomic Habits, I've heard of that. It's all about tiny changes leading to massive results.
Exactly. One of Clear's core principles is making those good habits more appealing. It's not enough to just know something's good for us. We need to genuinely desire it.
That makes sense. I mean, saving money often feels like a chore,
Right.
but spending it gives you that instant gratification.
Yeah.
So how do we bridge that gap?
One way is by connecting your financial goals to your values and your identity.
Okay.
So instead of thinking I should save more, ask yourself why it matters.
So like, what's the bigger picture?
Exactly. Do you crave financial security? Do you dream of traveling the world? Do you want to leave a legacy for your family?
Yeah.
When you link your habits to something personally meaningful, they become intrinsically motivating.
So it's not just about the money itself. It's about what it represents and the life it enables.
Absolutely. And another powerful technique is BJ Fogg's concept of tiny habits.
Tiny habits.
Okay, remind me about that one.
So remember how we talked about making things easy?
Yeah,
Well, Fogg takes it a step further. He says start so small it seems almost ridiculous.
ridiculous. Okay, I got to hear this. Give me an example. Okay, so let's say you want to start investing, but you feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So instead of diving into these complex strategies or committing to these large sums, Fogg might suggest simply opening an investing app and looking at it for 1 minute each day.
Seriously. That's it?
That's it. It's about forming the neural pathway first, even if the initial action is tiny.
Okay, I see. It's like just showing up.
Yeah. And once that pathway is established, you can gradually ramp it up.
Okay, so baby steps.
Exactly. It's all about building that momentum and proving to yourself that you can do it. Success breeds success, and each small win reinforces that habit loop.
I love that. It feels so much more achievable than trying to make these drastic changes overnight. This permission to start small and celebrate those early victories is kind of game-changing.
And here's where it gets even more intriguing. Once you establish these positive habits, you can create systems that almost automate good financial decisions.
Automatic. Like robots managing my money. Sign me up.
Well, not quite robots, but close. Think about setting up automatic transfers to savings and investment accounts. Use apps that round up purchases and invest the spare change. Maybe even work with a financial advisor for a personalized plan.
So instead of constantly relying on willpower and making decisions in the moment, I'm putting systems in place that make those good decisions for me.
Exactly.
It's like putting my financial future on autopilot.
Exactly. You
Right.
got it. And to make sure these systems are working for you, it's essential to track your progress.
Track my progress. Okay, but isn't that kind of a buzzkill? Like, I thought we were done with budgeting spreadsheets and all that.
Well, it doesn't have to be a buzzkill. Think of it like checking your weight if you're trying to lose a few pounds.
Okay.
Monitoring your finances helps you stay motivated and make adjustments along the way.
Okay, so it's more about awareness than punishment.
Exactly. And the key is finding a method that works for you. Some people love budgeting apps, others prefer spreadsheets, and some even use a simple notebook. The most important thing is consistency. Choose a system you'll actually stick with.
That makes sense. It feels like we're shifting from beating ourselves up for bad habits to using neuroscience to understand our brains and hack the system for success.
Exactly.
By making small changes, building momentum, and setting up those autopilot systems, we can actually transform our financial futures.
And there are countless examples of people who've done just that.
Really?
Yeah, remember Sarah?
Sarah?
Yeah, who was drowning in credit card debt.
Oh yeah, I remember her story.
She started by budgeting for just 2 minutes a day. Eventually, she built a comprehensive plan, tackled her debt, and even started to invest. Now she's debt-free and well on her way to achieving her financial goals.
Wow. Sarah's story is incredibly inspiring. It shows that even seemingly insignificant steps can lead to massive changes. Do you have any other examples you can share?
Yeah, it's amazing to hear how Sarah took control of her finances, using these neuroscience-backed strategies. It really highlights the power of changing our money habits.
And it's not just Sarah. We've also heard from Mike, who always dreamed of owning his own home.
Yeah.
But he struggled with saving for a down payment.
He used a technique called temptation bundling by pairing something he enjoyed, like listening to his favorite podcasts, with reviewing his budget and making extra payments towards his savings goal.
So like making it fun.
Exactly. By linking something pleasurable with a necessary task, he made saving more enjoyable and eventually bought his dream home.
I love that. It reminds us that We don't have to make this journey miserable. We can actually make it fun.
Right.
But for our listeners who are, ready to start implementing these strategies, where do they begin? What's the first step they can take today to rewire their brains for financial success?
I would say start small and focus on one habit at a time. Trying to overhaul everything at once can be really overwhelming and lead to burnout.
Right.
Instead, choose one habit you want to change and use James Clear's 2-minute rule.
The 2-minute rule.
Yeah. What's one small action you can take for just 2 minutes each day to build momentum?
So, for example, if someone wants to start budgeting, they could commit to tracking their spending for just 2 minutes each day.
Exactly. Or if they want to start investing, they could spend 2 minutes a day researching different investment options. Make it so easy that you can't say no.
Okay.
Once you've established the habit for a week or two, gradually increase the time and intensity.
So it all comes back to, baby steps and celebrating those small wins.
Exactly.
But even with the best of intentions, staying motivated can be tough. Any tips for staying on track and not giving up when things get challenging?
Finding a supportive community or an accountability partner can be incredibly helpful. Sharing your goals and having someone to cheer you on and hold you accountable can make all the difference.
That's so true. I think having that support system can really help you stay motivated, especially when you hit those inevitable roadblocks.
You can find online communities, financial coaching programs, or even just buddy up with a friend who's also working on their financial goals. The key is to find people who are supportive and aligned with your values.
Yeah. And it's also important to remember that progress isn't always linear, right? There will be setbacks and challenges along the way.
Absolutely. Embrace those setbacks as learning opportunities and use them to refine your strategies. Remember, you're rewiring your brain, and that takes time and effort.
It's a journey.
Be patient with yourself and celebrate every victory.
So we've covered the science, the strategies, the support systems, the mindset. What's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to leave with today?
You have the power to change your financial destiny. Your brain is an incredible tool, and by understanding how it works, you can rewire it for success.
I love that.
By applying these principles, you can break free from bad money habits and create a life of financial freedom and abundance.
This has been such an inspiring and empowering conversation. Thank you for sharing your expertise with us today.
My pleasure. It's
Yeah.
been great diving into this topic with you.
And to our amazing listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the neuroscience of financial habits. Remember, you have the power to create the financial future you deserve. Start small, stay consistent, and never give up on yourself. And one final thought to ponder. Imagine how different your financial life could be if you had started rewiring your brain for wealth at age 7. What one habit can you start changing today to create a brighter financial future?
That's a great question to leave our listeners with.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for financial success.